custody. They'll appear at Bristol Youth Court tomorrow. Well, Avon and Somerset Police has referred itself to the independent police watchdog after arresting a 42-year-old woman on suspicion of murder following the deaths of 3 children in Bristol. Officers attended a concern for welfare call in Blaze Walk in Sea Mills this afternoon. They say the suspect is currently in police custody at a hospital. One local woman says the family had 2 boys, aged around 8 and 6 months, and a girl aged around 4. The force said it was contacting the IOPC due to prior police contact. Sir Keir Starmer has called for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza during a speech at the Scottish Labour conference. It's a change to his previous stance of a pause in the fighting. He said that instead the war must stop now. But he says the ceasefire can't be one-sided. He's calling on Hamas to release all of its remaining hostages. He also said a 2-state solution must be back on the table.
An end to the fighting, not just now, not just for a pause, but permanently. A ceasefire that lasts, conference, that is what must happen now. The fighting must stop now.
And the Prince of Wales has said he has a new list of movies to watch after attending the BAFTAs this evening, his first high-profile royal engagement since his wife's operation. And a warning for those of you watching on TV, the following footage contains flashing images. William, who is president of the arts charity, took selfies with members of the public as he made his way down the red carpet. Oppenheimer has won BAFTAs for Best Film, Best Director, Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, whilst Emma Stone has won Best Actress for Poor Things. Meanwhile, The Zone of Interest, starring Sandra Huller, has won Outstanding British Film. For the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now, back to our headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Monday's newspapers. I'm Josh Howie, and joining me to try and make sense of the world are 2 comedy chums, Kerry Marks and Paul Cox. How are you both?
I'm one comedy chum.
What, are you saying I'm not friends with Paul in real life?
No, I'm just one.
You're just one of, of those chums?
Yes, totally.
Well, we bump into each other as we walk around our
being a
local
chum.
Yeah, exactly.
I've not heard the word chum for ages.
No,
that's why I brought it back.
with like great white shark.
It's got the ch sound.
How are you, comedy chum?
Cool beans from my perspective, to be fair. A word I'm trying to use much more, actually.
What, beans
cool
or
beans?
chum?
Yeah, cool beans is kind of it's my thing.
God, this kind of banter is why people just tune into the show.
There'll be more.
Yeah, there'll be some old words that we'll bring back. We're going to have a look at the front pages. We have the Daily Mail. Can our police sink any lower? The Telegraph. Badenoch accuses post office boss of lying in Horizon vow. Guardian. Putin accused of covering tracks over Navalny death. Mirror. Now make them pay. The Times. Schools will get greater power to ban mobiles. And the Daily Star. Undead as the dodo. And those are your front pages. Right, we are going to kick off with the Daily Telegraph. Who we got that?
I will. I'll have it, if you like.
Come on, chum. Come on, chum.
OK, as chum one.
Come on, old beans.
Chum one.
First named chum. So this is a row that's broken over the post office dispute, which, of course, is for more than 4,000 people who have been told they'll be eligible for compensation. But this is really about the post office chairman, or former post office chairman, Henry Staunton, who was fired by Badenoch.
Well, I'm going with Badenoch because I think it's a Jewish name.
You made it more Scottish.
No, the knock, you know, CH at the end. It's
okay. How are you on this? Badenoch?
Badenoch.
Badenoch. You know what, I bet he's right as well. But I like Badenoch, so I'm staying with it. So anyway, Henry Staunton has claimed that the government were delaying compensation payouts to the postmasters.
And told him to do that, basically.
Apparently he was told to do this, and this has all come out from a meeting with Badenoch. He claims that the idea was that they were going to limp into the next election by slowly paying these people. They were going to make a big scandal of the whole thing and to slow it down and delay it.
Deliberately scupper the Tories.
Yeah, but then she's putting out messages on X, which it says here, formerly known as Twitter, which we have to say with X.
We're doing that forever. Like Prince.
Yeah, it's like Prince, isn't it? Forever, formerly known as Prince, but we all know who we're talking about. And she's saying that he's completely lied about what was said in the meeting, and she's going to make a statement about it tomorrow. So this will be really interesting to talk about tomorrow. When we know a little bit more about what.
So really, this is tomorrow's.
This is a meeting which
tomorrow's papers today.
This is the next. This is now. We're on Tuesday.
This is obviously damning. This is adding insult to injury, surely, Paul. And they're saying here that actually the reason they fired him is because of him allegedly blocking the whistleblowers from being able to report in the inquiry at the moment.
Please don't die.
Yes, well, this is how upset I am by the story. But this is pretty damning for him, really.
I think so, yeah. And, I mean, this is just a cesspit of lies, this whole scandal over all the years, isn't it?
Over decades.
Decades and decades and decades. And if he's going to come for Badenoch, he better have it right, because she's not going to mess around. If she's making a statement tomorrow, she's really going to be gunning for him if in some way he has misrepresented her, as she says in this story. And I can imagine he has, because I just can't imagine this benefits her in any way to do this.
She's also saying she's got evidence. She said there were loads of people at the meetings, loads of notes were taken, and...
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she was pretty high. I read the thread.
I read it quickly.
Twitter,
I thought this was...
X.
Oh, really? Because I thought it was a meeting that she had with him when she fired him.
She was hardcore. She was just like, I've got it all, and I'm going to be revealing it.
Got the receipts.
She was revelling in it.
It's nothing like the bitterness of a sacked person, is there? So it is a bit suspicious. He might have some evidence himself, though.
Let's see. Let's go on to the Times, Paul. Let's actually have a quick look. We've got some photos there of the winner of the BAFTA.
Is that Emma Stone?
Emma Stone. She won Poor Things, and I think who are the big winners of the day were Oppenheimer, I believe.
Yeah.
So good. Well done for them. I must watch it.
Me too.
A resounding review there from the headliners team.
I remember at BAFTA, I've seen them all. But anyway, let's go on. And what's the big story that they're going with?
In the Times, thousands of foreign care workers are breaking UK visa rules. So inspections revealed that the Home Office issued 275 visas to care homes that didn't exist. And eventually they discovered why, because all these care homes were said to be in Scotland, where the...
Old people just die. They don't have old people.
Exactly. Life expectancy is 33. There aren't any care homes. So eventually they were going to get found out. But, of course, this is a huge story because it's just, once again, opening this can of worms with explaining how easy it is to get into this country. Now, I think a lot of this you have to take with a pinch of salt, because I don't think it is tremendously easy, because, not everyone in the world's able to get in. But if you
I find it easy.
Yeah, you and I, of course we did, yeah. We didn't travel far, did we?
Yeah.
We were born here, which helped.
Yeah, cheats.
However, if you can lie to the extent that it's a fictitious business and get away with it to the extent of 275 visas, that is quite
up
damning.
to a quarter of all foreign care workers.
Yes.
Yeah, that was actually 275 just to one care home, by the look of it. That was to a single one. And then 1,234 to a company that stated it only had 4 staff when they looked into it. So...
and they're getting jobs elsewhere, aren't they? They're getting the visas coming over as carers, but they're actually working in other industries.
It's very imaginative.
Playing the system.
It's very imaginative. You've got to be impressed with that. But they're simply... It's quite incredible that they're getting away with just making up businesses that don't exist at all.
So it's another loophole, which is essentially what... And we seem to be finding more and more that we...
Yeah, we are organising these gangs, you and I, Josh. So
there seem to be a lot of...
I knew it was your fault.
...loopholes out there that are being exploited, and now they seem to be identified, which is a good thing, because loopholes are bad. They're not fair. They're people gaming...
We're forever closing loopholes, aren't we? Whatever system we have, there will be a loophole. Someone will...
But when one loophole closes, another opens.
Every cloud has a silver loophole. OK, let's have a quick look at The Guardian, Kerry.
OK, well, we've got a couple of big stories here. Well, one, I'm not sure this is such a big story. The ministers confirm phone ban for English schools. Oddly, it's saying that some parents would be against it, would have resistance to it, but I've not got the whole story here as to Why would parents be against that? I'm not quite sure. A very good thing, you know. I think people are overusing phones and it doesn't really help in a classroom or anything else. I'm surprised
schools
really lasted this long. But
you've got kids. Schools already have the power to ban phones. The secondary school. Sorry to just get off you, Gary, because your opinion just doesn't matter.
I love the way... I was heading towards something
you have
really
not procreated, thus your opinion is totally invalid.
No, go on, you say the thing.
No, I thought you were shocked that I had procreated.
I'm sorry if I'm in your way.
I didn't say a word. Josh went to me.
Sorry. Wow.
I'm sorry. OK, tell us your uninformed
I've gone from...
Tell us your stupid opinion without kids.
I've gone from #1 chum right down now. Yeah. No, carry on.
The problem is that you don't use your beans.
You trump me.
Yes, as often happens. But I think the point, or the crux of this is that, of course, why would we want that distraction, in the classroom? However, I'm sure Josh might agree with me on this. It is, for teenage kids at least, very useful for them to have kids. It's a safety...
With a phone? You've got to have kids with a phone.
Well,
talking about?
I've tried. But being able to contact them is a safety tool in many ways, and being able to track where they are.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do in an emergency?
Well,
who was a kid?
I certainly wouldn't call my daughter an emergency. She wouldn't answer for a start.
But they can obviously use them after school, and that's the way they have to keep them in the lockers or in their bags during school. And if they're seen with them, they get a detention. But the idea here is to make this kind of official advice seems ridiculous. Schools have this power, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, to have it as some sort of legislation or law in some way that would compel the schools seems a little draconian to me, a little bit nanny state. I'm sure most schools...
So they're allowed to search the pupils' bags, essentially. Is that...
I'm still uncomfortable with that. And go on, because you...
It does say that one head said it would help give the schools confidence to make a change that would benefit the pupils. Well, why do they need that kind of confidence? Why do they need a government to tell them to do that?
Because that's the culture that we live in now.
Yes.
Where we are scared of...
That's the culture that's come from spending too much time on your phones.
There we go. Finally, let's do the Daily Star very quickly, Paul.
Big news. Undead as the dodo. So boffins can bring back 300-year-old...
Boffins.
Them boffins are everywhere.
They only exist in the Star. What amused me...
They do, don't they?
Our chums, the boffins.
Yeah, where else do you see boffins other than the Star? I mean, the thing that made me laugh is they got a picture of Biden on the front. I barely noticed the picture of Trump. And the idea there is that it's not them two old people. But the idea that you can bring the dodo back is... is fascinating.
We've all missed the dodo, haven't we?
Yeah, what would happen to the saying?
Yeah, you can't no longer say dead as a dodo. Cloned as a dodo.
Well, that would become some sort of hate crime.
We'll find something else.
But do you think the dodos might come back and then take over the world, like in Jurassic Park?
I hadn't thought of that, Josh.
I'm just saying, there might be a reason why they were wiped out.
Oh, my God.
Death by dodo. I don't see it happening, but...
That's it. But you know what? I'm looking forward to eating one.
Yeah, apparently they are delicious.
How would we possibly know that?
No, historically it's written in books, but I don't know from...
They taste like chicken.
I don't know from... Yeah, apparently so.
Sick literature are you reading?
Doubts about this.
Right, that's all. The front page is done. Stick around for the ceasefire flopping. Scotland and Wales are joining the small boats fun, and a Theresa May comeback. See you in 2.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
Former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has made her much-anticipated appearance before the Scottish COVID inquiry today. It comes after allegations emerged that she deleted key pandemic WhatsApp messages, used the pandemic to push her own political agenda. But let's just cast our mind back, shall we, to August 2021, when Sturgeon was asked if she'd hand over all her WhatsApps to the inquiry. Here we go.
I think if you understand statutory public inquiries, you would know that even if I wasn't prepared to give that assurance, which for the avoidance of doubt I am, then I wouldn't have the ability. This will be a judge-led statutory public inquiry.
Which, for the avoidance of doubt, I am. OK. Well, you weren't, were you? But fast forward to today, and she was much less forthcoming.
WhatsApp messages between yourself and Mr Yusuf and Ms Lloyd were produced by you. Where did you get them?
They were provided to me through the Scottish Government.
But did you delete them?
Yes.
Did you consider yourself, against that background and your considerable ministerial experience, to be precisely the right First Minister for the job?
No, that's not how I would have thought of it at all. There's a large part of me wishes that I hadn't been.
All right, then. I'm joined now by Tory MP Lee Anderson. Lee, are those just crocodile tears?
Well, it looks like crocodile tears to me, Patrick. I mean, first we had the missing camper van. Nobody knows where that is. Now we've got this nonsense. We've got these burner phones, dodgy £5 phones from wherever they bought them from, WhatsApp messages going missing. It all looks a little bit dodgy to me. I mean, she's bleating on there, she's crying on screen. This is not cutting no ice. It's crocodile tears. It makes you wonder what the SNPs are all about, Patrick. It looks... I mean, the people that have burner phones, let's be clear, people that have these dodgy phones where you can't trace them and disappearing WhatsApp messages, these are normally criminals, these are drug dealers. And you know what? These SNPs are no better than criminals.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Josh Howie, and this before and after makeover is Kerry Marks and Paul Cox.
Yay!
The thing is, I wrote that link before I saw your little outfit for this evening, and this is the smartest I've ever seen you.
Yeah,
little outfit.
I really like it.
I'm working on outfit and I'm working on my look I give Paul every now and then.
Oh, gosh.
Don't look at
a little bit too sexual. Kerry, let's kick off with Monday's Times.
Oh, yeah, let's do the fun stuff.
Keir Starmer just lost his bottle and my vote?
He's under a lot of pressure, isn't he, poor Keir? And he's going to call for, or he's talking about calling for he's calling for a Gaza ceasefire, but not really with any. It is with emergencies. They've got to stop fighting now. Everything these days is now. Israel
must win this election
ceasefire now. Oil must stop now. Climate now. It never has any effects. We don't actually ever do anything now. So that's kind of funny. It makes people feel happy.
Such a good point.
It makes people feel like it's urgent. Look, I'm a pacifist, as I'm sure are most rubbish fighters, but the world is getting very complex right now, and people are testing the West to see what they can get away with. And I think really a better long-term plan is needed. You can't simply say things like two-state solution. The Palestinian leadership have to want that. They have to be going for it as well. Otherwise, it's meaningless, you know. And I think what's happening a lot also with Starmer is that he's seeing what's going on across the pond in America with Biden losing his bottle a little bit with this war as well. Biden, of course, is he's largely being advised by Mayor Bitar, who's BDS, which BDS, if you don't know much about it, they're against a peace arrangement. They want a full one-state solution, and Bitar is also a member of UNRWA. By the way, I say UNRWA, everyone's saying UNRWA. We don't pronounce the U in England, do we? So UNRWA, please. UNRWA, of course, is beginning to unwrap, which is what UNRWA is short for, just without the P. I don't really understand this. We don't vote for ceasefires in this country of other countries where we're not involved in the war. We have done with Falklands. We did with Afghanistan, with Bosnia-Herzegovina.
The ones that we're involved in.
We had troops there involved. We didn't vote for ceasefires with Jordan, with Egypt, or any other countries at all. And they were set up by Britain as well, so that excuse goes out the window. It's a very odd thing that we're even doing that. And this two-state solution thing, yes, I'd love to see a two-state solution, but we're not talking about any solution for the Kurds, Yazidis, the Bloki, the Copts, the B'nai. Are we rewarding the most violent of everyone? And the third part I really have a problem is no one is talking about or has any interest in the Rafah crossing. You know, if someone is firebombing your house, you can be really angry with them, but if someone else is closing the fire exit and not letting you out,
in this case,
that Rafah crossing is Egypt.
And there's a reason why Egypt doesn't want to let...
Yes, but come clean about it. Then at least let's talk about the actual issues that are going on, because for now, Egypt is simply saying, we're not going to open it, and no one's even questioning it, which seems strange to me.
For me, the main thing is, Paul, is... So what? You can call, or this government, or the Labour Party, whoever it is, can call for a ceasefire, all the people out marching, it won't make any difference. The fact that they think that they can have any kind of impact is ridiculous. And even if America calls for a ceasefire, even if they stop providing any aid, that Israel's just going to do what it needs to do to save its citizens as hostages and to protect itself. It's in a war it did not start.
Such a good point. I mean, I might start a vote to democratise North Korea and see how I get on.
Yeah, good idea.
If we all three of us vote now, do we want to democratise North Korea? Yes, we do.
Well, let's just vote for a perfect world.
Yeah, exactly. I tell you what, choose love, Kerry.
Choose love.
Yeah,
vote
exactly.
For it. Now.
Can anyone name a stance that Keir Starmer stood by, though?
That's the sad thing was, this was one thing that he seemed to be pretty solid on, and it seems like he's bottled it. It seems like he's giving in to certain parts of his constituents, that there's a fear of losing a certain part of the predominantly Muslim vote, although actually numbers suggest it's not as big as all of that.
Yeah.
So whether it's him going along with it, whether he's sort of... He was very careful to kind of balance his language, and they need to get the hostages back, and Hamas need to also... want peace, but that's not going to happen. They don't want
Is his opinion going to be different next week? That's what I want. And what I would say, by the way, this is not the only sort of kind of U-turn we've seen. I mean, I just made, off the top of my head, and I don't even know Labour policy, Gaza, 28 billion Green Fund, nationalisation or common ownership, as he called it, rejoin, free movement, all things that he once said when he wanted to become leader, and he's now backtracked on.
Well, I would argue that actually... changing your mind is not necessarily a bad thing, but there's a difference between
but
that
not
and
every
having
week.
conviction, which I don't believe he has here. Anyway, Monday's Mail next, and time to spread the pain, Paul.
Yeah, Home Secretary James Cleverly has accused the Scottish and Welsh administrations of not pulling their weight over the distribution of asylum seekers. So in letters he directed to the Scottish First Minister and the outgoing Welsh leader, Mr Cleverly said that England houses 16 asylum seekers for every 10,000 people, and Scotland takes only 8 and Wales just 9. So this, for me, is a lovely bit of trolling from James Cleverly, because...
Cleverly.
Cleverly. I mean, both of the devolved governments have built governments on a heavy amount of virtue signalling. And one thing that gets virtue points is immigration. And the fact that a Conservative-led England is able to point the finger at Wales and Scotland and say, you're not pulling your weight on immigration, is kind of a lovely bit of serendipity for James Cleverly. It makes for really interesting reading. Because he uses per 10,000 people, it's difficult to argue. The statistic stands up. But as we all know, lies, damn lies and statistics.
Well, like the last story, Kerry, will it make any difference in writing to the leaders of those countries?
Well, maybe they'll take more responsibility. I don't see why we can't find a way to turn the country round.
There's no way to force them.
If we turn the country round, they'd arrive in Scotland.
Oh, I see.
This is my idea.
Do you think it's part of his plan also to sort of get people to leave UK?
Like
send them to Dundee.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a bad idea, is it? Look, they've got loads of space up there as well. By the way, why does Northern Ireland get off for this? Shouldn't they be are they taking in migrants? I don't think so.
I didn't look at the statistics.
No, it's just Scotland and Wales.
Ireland
Why
definitely
Scotland and Wales? I don't know. I think this is the story that keeps on not giving, isn't it? It goes on forever, and. My idea is to send the asylum seekers actually to an asylum. That's what they're seeking, isn't it? I mean, they're mad enough already to want to come here. Really, they should be listening to students who tell everyone this country's awful. But no one seems to be listening to them. What I'd really like to know is what's happening to all the small boats, because I figure there's been so many by now, we should all have one.
It's very interesting. Or at least maybe they could sell them back and maybe make some profit. Might be interesting. OK, Perry, The Express has a story on the cost of migrants, surprisingly.
OK, so this story has outrage to it.
Outrage too.
Hasn't every story got outrage?
It's just a group of outrage.
Will outrage now.
If this last one didn't outrage you, this one will outrage you. This is even more outrageous. It's revealed how much jobless migrants and foreign students really cost the UK. So the UK taxpayer, not me personally, has forked out around 24 billion on jobless legal migrants. And this is really about the breakdown of this of truth by slogan that we have so much going on these days. If you say something like diversity is our strength, which of course there are strengths to diversity, but it's not just a fact. You know, none of this is a fact. Or that migration solves something. It's a panacea that will give us all answers. And, of course, we have an ageing population, so the idea is to bring in more people, but you end up with another problem that keeps on happening with you know, more and more people who will have more and more babies, and the same thing over and over again. I worded that brilliantly, and I'm really proud of myself.
The problem here is...
What I'm saying is it's not a magic wand, and they're saying here that if we include international students who also count as economically inactive, which just means they're here but they're not working, then the figure goes up to around 36 billion. It actually says an eye-watering 36 billion. Why do we have so many adjectives
But they
in the news?
factor in how much those students are paying to be here. So let's just get rid of the students.
So I think we can leave them alone.
And they also don't talk about how much migrants who are working contribute to the economy. They very consciously leave that out. But there is an issue here of this 700,000 people who are jobless, who are migrants to this country and who are taking from the system rather than contributing to it, Paul.
Yeah, and I think at the very centre of this lies a problem. That's culture, and I mean our culture by that. Differently to normal, because what we really want to do is people to assimilate, to integrate and come here, and by which we mean we want them to integrate into our culture. But I have no idea anymore what our culture is. We keep saying you need to, you know, in order to build a community, you need to have a consistent culture, and they need to.
I would say first things first, it's get a job, and that's obviously what some people are not doing.
But is that our culture? I mean, this is the point now. It's so watered down, our culture. Where do we begin and where do we end?
It's odd, though. I wouldn't go to another country planning to sign on to their welfare unless I could get away with it, in which I would.
There we go.
And that's the problem.
You said it right there. Moving on to The Guardian, Paul, and seems like Theresa May was right all along.
Yes, another slogan. Call to urgently revive Theresa May's plan for EU-wide defence treaty. So the former UK Prime Minister, Theresa May... I
remember her.
There's many of them.
Yeah, do you remember? Yeah.
Just recently.
Yeah, exactly. Proposal for...
That cenotaph gets pretty crowded nowadays, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. For an EU-wide defence treaty needs to be revisited urgently. Now, again. Must be now.
Must be done now.
The leader of Emmanuel Macron's political group in Brussels has said. So those are the first two red flags for me. First of all is that this is urgently demanded by Europhile, because all of Macron's buddies are Europhiles, and that it's been reported in The Guardian. So first of all, that is the context, and you have to have the context when you're discussing these things. However, I don't object to a EU-wide treaty on, or a collective on our defence, and we already have that, because we have acted together for the Ukraine, for instance.
We haven't acted together.
Well, we've
acted
acted
individually.
Yeah.
Europe's doing its thing, we're doing our thing.
But it's come together quite well, I think.
Well, it has in this case. But as you say, we have a problem with Putin. And there's another issue. If Trump gets back into power and there's threatening or about withdrawing from NATO or lessening powers or whatever it is, then we are on our own as a continent against Putin. So it is necessary. There is obviously fear within Europe.
But we have NATO, though.
Well, that's
right?
what I'm saying.
So...
Yeah, but if Trump is threatening to pull out of NATO or cancel NATO, doing what he's doing,
would be a problem.
So certainly pulling back, we are somewhat left on our own. So the idea is...
We do have an over-reliance on the States.
Yeah.
We have an over-reliance on so many different things, and that's because sovereignty's a naughty word now.
Why are we doing this? So why is Theresa May getting involved?
This was her plan.
This was her plan, but...
No, sure, but I feel like this is something that Europe should be coming to us for and begging. We're out on the outskirts. We're the last one Putin's going to get to, right?
No,
they need us
there's other
more
reports
than we need
they
them.
said they've targeted UK specifically. They're very angry with us.
Everything's backfired with Putin, hasn't it? I mean, he really did this claiming that NATO had all this power and NATO has powered up as a result, and now this discussion of a unified European position is the last thing that he would have wanted. So,
right.
Fool.
Bald fool.
He's a fool.
He's looking in the mirror.
He's a fool now.
Right, we're at the halfway point where we tip over to where the world gets more mental with male breastfeeding, castrating squirrels and assertive women. See you there.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Welcome to the show. Superb stuff, great footage. So you're right in the thick of it there. What's the mood on the ground?
Well, I've left there now. I've actually now come to that EU Council summit that I was talking about. It's still pretty chaotic. The entire city of Brussels has been completely clogged with these tractors, sort of three abreast in most of the roads across the city. The people of Brussels aren't particularly happy. I mean, this is sort of reminiscent for some people of the Just Stop Oil protests, you know, people gluing themselves. People are unable to get to hospital appointments, and there's a lot of upset about the destruction that's happening on the streets of Brussels today. But on the other side, there's also the protests, which the farmers are saying that EU green laws simply are not able to fit with what they need to do to keep their businesses going. And just before the protests happened, we saw the European Commission actually make some concessions to the farmers' protests. And this is on the demands that were put on them to set aside somewhere in the region of 5% of their land for regrowing for biodiversity. A lot of the farmers have said that's not possible, and the European Commission has said that they can delay that coming in. So they have won a small concession with these protests.
And Jack, there's a feeling as well, a huge dissatisfaction that the European Union has managed to find 50 billion euros in aid to send to Ukraine, and yet farmers in particular are on the receiving end of net zero targets, taxation on diesel and endless red tape. So many farmers, Jack, saying they're measuring ditches to see if they have to drain them or not. There are minimum requirements on the width of battery hen enclosures, endless red tape. As Jeremy Clarkson pointed out in Clarkson's farm in Britain, they've simply had enough, and they're shouting, Ursula von der Leyen, we are here.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. And Paul, we're going to get straight into Monday's mail for some good old-fashioned, traditional male breastfeeding.
Yeah. To answer the question, what is the latest woke hell, Josh? Row as hospitals say hormone-filled milk from trans women who were born male is just as good for a baby as the real thing. Now, I'm going to try and explain this for the viewers. I know we're all up to speed on this, and we tried some. It's possible for men, if they pump themselves full of estrogen, to grow larger breast tissue. And they often do.
Or you just eat lots of burgers.
Exhibit A. And once you've done that, it is actually then possible to express or lactate a liquid. Okay? If to that liquid you then add another load of pills, medication, chemicals, whatever, that lactation juice can be fed to a baby.
Doesn't make it milk and doesn't make it healthy.
Doesn't make it mother's milk, that's for sure. I'm not sure what it does make it. It makes it man boob milk.
I like the fact you did a mime. You did a mime in case you
Why don't you do a little
what a nipple was there.
Latch on, Kerry.
I will latch on, mate. I'm going to be contrary here. I love trans milk.
In the morning.
Tasty as anything. Look, I thought women have spent decades saying men should do more to raise the baby, you know, and now that they're taking over the breastfeeding, I don't think you can really complain. We don't have a shortage of women's breasts in this country. You know, roughly half the country. No, I've counted them. Roughly half the country.
I think
are
it's
women,
more like 70% now.
They have 2 breasts each, so that we have 100% women's breasts in this country, and we don't really. This is not for the sake of the baby. The baby has no benefits from this whatsoever. The studies are very weak on it. It's a bit worrying because, you know, when hospitals started indulging in homeopathy and having, you know, the NHS had homeopathic hospitals, that was worrying because they're supposed to be a trusted authority. And before saying something like this, there should be an awful lot of study done.
I want to shame this hospital. This is
whether it's necessary.
University Hospital Sussex NHS Foundation Trust. That's who it is. And they have written one of the stupidest sentences that I have read aloud in the 2 years that I've been privileged to do this show. It says, the term human milk is meant to be neutral and not gender biased.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep.
Oh, my God, we're laughing at you.
I mean, and as someone says here, babies are not props. And that's the scary thing. And when we're not focusing primarily on the health of a baby.
No, but the feeling of a person doing it rather than it's a bit of an odd way to go, isn't it? So.
Right, Guardian has a story, Kerry, that might get us cancelled. Let's do it.
I don't see why it would.
Well, when you start,
it's not us. It's an Italian town.
I know, but as a Italian town,
this Italian town
hearing your own feelings.
This Italian town is in turmoil, we're told. I doubt they're actually in turmoil.
No, they're in turmoil.
They're in turmoil. Far-right mayor bans Muslim prayers. This is in cultural centres, and has also banned bikinis at the beach. So no wet
not bikinis. No, they're not called burkinis.
I said bikinis.
I don't think you really pronounce bikini.
I'm not sure what that was. Where are they now? Greece.
What's going on? I knew what this programme was, and now it's become
This is what happens when you have 5 children.
You're putting the Burke into bikini.
It's a very Adam Bloom joke, that.
This is the far-right mayor, Anne-Maria Szint.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Szint. Who is banning things. Oddly enough, it suddenly mentions an envelope here in the story. I don't know what you call this, and maybe I'm missing something. Bangladeshi residents are upset about this, and it says the envelope contained 2 partially burned pages of the Quran.
Yeah,
where did the envelope come from? Well, suddenly there's an envelope which is, of course, awful. I've got mixed feelings on this because it's not banning prayer. It's not banning prayer in mosques and so on. This is in cultural centres and.
Well, that's what I said. It says it wasn't built as a mosque. It was built as a commercial centre.
Right.
And now and the argument is that they're using it as a mosque, which is against what it was built for.
But if prayer worked, why don't they just pray to undo the ban? It doesn't work. That's the point. I'm not against prayer in public. To me, it's like, I don't mind if people want to kiss in public, but snogging is you know, a bit weird, and I feel the same about prayer.
Yeah, it's about following the rules. I mean, there are some things that seem a little bit suspect, like they banned cricket, because it's a Bangladeshi immigrant population, they banned cricket.
Right.
That seems a bit wrong to me.
Yes.
That sounds a bit...
Nobody should ban
There's a few
cricket.
things...
But Italy won't understand cricket, and it's...
Cricket, right. Heading over to the Telegraph now, and Paul, please tell Kerry and I, what is anti-Semitism?
Here I go, guys. Here I go.
I'm giving you the look.
I'm also giving you the look.
Oh, my God, it's the double look. Government must be faster and bolder in tackling anti-Semitism, warns extremism czar. And this is Robin Simcox, who's our Commissioner for Countering Extremism. And he's really worried about anti-Semitism. And I have read The Guardian, and there is none. So he can calm down.
It's very good, except, well,
and relax.
this week it was on the front page of The Guardian and other newspapers about the massive increase in anti-Semitism. So
this is exactly right. And his point is that Rishi Sunak and the Tory government have made some inroads. However, if they don't act fast and they don't act stronger, then it's only going to get worse. And I think we've seen just this weekend with yet more protests. We don't even mention them anymore because they're just a habitual part of a group of people's weekends. But there was one guy stood there with a sign saying Hamas is a terrorist group, which is written in law in this country. And he was physically attacked and spat on.
By the police as well. They didn't spit on him. But they did drag him
Marched
away.
him off.
And you saw him, sort of bend his arm backwards and whatever, like he'd done something wrong.
Yep. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys know much about anti-Semitism, but I feel like I should give you a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, there was also, of course, the Scottish policeman who asked a Jewish man to take off his Star of David because no Jewish signs, and it might upset the marchers. Extreme. That's not even an Israel thing. It's just it's extreme, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, this was the extremism Tsar. I don't know what extremism Tsar is like. I am so Tsar, you know, more Tsar than anyone. But but he's making a point that there's a lot of medieval tropes that have come completely back into the conversation. They're all across social media and so on. I won't list them all in detail right now because I think
on placards at these
marches. Yeah, they're on placards and so on, and the money stuff all comes back in and so on. That Jews are
blood libel,
the whole lot. Which I don't think people understand. The blood libel, it originally starts with the idea that Jews eat other people's children, which most Christian children don't taste that nice. But it's not a case of because the blood libel you cannot talk about Israel and children being killed. It's more a case of you have to talk about these things with some sensitivity because the blood libel has existed for 1,000 years and is so incredibly powerful. I find I've had a number of conversations with people recently because they asked me about the subject, and one man got angry at me. He told me that I don't know what anti-Semitism is, and then he insisted it's the hate of Judaism, and I was like, no, it's not. But he wouldn't have it any other way, so...
Because if you can redefine what anti-Semitism is, you're no longer anti-Semitic.
The racists want to pretend that they're not racist.
But I'll just say quickly, I think it's more than that, though. I think it's also we've gone so far into this tribalist critical theory, social justice understanding of a strata of hatred, rather than understanding and learning what hatred actually is, how it works, how the systems work, and how it covers and goes across all humanity. And I think it's a loss to leave out.
And we do have to move on. I just wanted to say something. Sorry, Paul. The problem is the government is not acting on the laws it already has. It is not having the deterrent. You have the 3 young women who went to and were convicted of a terrorist offence. They get off. Turns out the judge is sympathetic to their cause. And we're having these people being able to... We had a few arrests yesterday, but we are having some genuine hatred on the streets, and it is not being dealt with. And that is why we're at the situation. That's why it's partly getting worse. More Telegraph, and finally, some net zero plans that its readers can get behind, Kerry.
Castrate squirrels and serve prisoners cold deer meat, says net zero plan. This is quite a contrast to the last story, really. So, squirrels will be chemically castrated and deer will be cold and cooked and served to prisoners. Just to make that clear, it's the deer that's going to be cold, cooked and served. We're not going to be giving prisoners castrated chemically squirrels.
Which I've heard are delicious.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because...
Lewis says that they're amazing.
Lewis is on raw squirrel every Wednesday.
I always go with Lewis's understandings of everything. The highest deer population for 1,000 years is devastating woodland. Grey squirrels are estimated to cost the economy $37 million per year in negative impacts to trees, while ravaging red squirrel population. This is part of the squirrel identity politics that's going on in our woods, and they're winning.
So they're going to sterilise the squirrel population by giving them little condoms, right? And borrow some from me.
I believe it's...
buy some from me.
Yeah, they've decided not to go with the hard method. They're hard to catch, aren't they?
Yeah. Is that right? Paul, we're going to very quickly finish this. The Times has a story about teaching young women to wear shoulder pads.
Slightly different. Girls' schools teach youngsters how to be assertive women at work. So this is a book called Schools of Thought. It's written by 2 head teachers, or 1 deputy and 1 head, of private schools in London, which I understand from you, Josh, are the best schools in the world. Jane Lunnan and David James are the authors. Now, there's a contributor, Claire Wagner, who was the head teacher of Henrietta Barnett, which is a really exclusive all-female grammar school in
my sister went
in London, of course, naturally. And she says, whilst we still have a gender pay gap and women are still unrepresented in the top jobs in the FTSE 100, there is still a battle to be fought and won. Now, I have a teenage daughter, and I understand this entirely, and I would like to teach her to be assertive and strong as a human being, irrespective of her gender. First thing I'd teach her is there probably isn't a gender pay gap, and that if she keeps getting told there is, then it's only going to hold her back. And the other thing I would tell her is she doesn't need to be a CEO of a FTSE 100 company in order to be successful. Because for some reason, that is all we seem to hear. It just seems to be judged by these 100 companies and the people that sit in their boardrooms. That's not what success looks like. That's what nepotism looks like. That's got nothing to do with gender.
It's a good speech, you know.
Yeah, I like it.
You can go with number one shot now.
Right,
I'm going to just understandably drop down.
Yeah. Part 3's done. Just the final section to go with promiscuous Brits, British cannibals, and the moon is shrinking. See you in 2.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News. Every Wednesday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions when Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer go head-to-head in the House of Commons.
We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Farage, Monday to Thursday from 7 p.m.
Lots of people have different ideas, but principally a conservative approach to getting growth is to reduce taxes so that people, ordinary people and businesses can spend more of their own money to invest and grow the economy.
So the theory is that you cut taxes and that then pumps more money into the economy.
Exactly right.
Growth.
And then people, you know, it's not government that are creating wealth. It's individuals, businessmen, companies that create wealth. It's the private sector that creates wealth, that the public sector then taxes and spends.
I get the theory, but one of the criticisms of you, and I think one of the criticisms actually of all political parties, is they appear to be incapable of cutting government spending.
That's the key. I mean, and I think when I look back, is that we should have had a credible plan to reduce the increase in spending. Now, that's often a difficult concept to explain.
But it's in line with inflation, etc.
That's all right. So when you're slowing the increase, it means, you know, one year you spend £100 and the next year you spend maybe £101 as opposed to going up to £110. So the actual level isn't going down, but you're slowing the increase. And that's very much what I tried to do. And actually, looking back, the one thing I wish I'd done, was to present a credible spending plan at the same time as the tax cuts that we announced.
You had a go, it didn't work out for whatever reason, and that analysis will go on for some years to come. We have Jeremy Hunt there as Chancellor now, hinting quite strongly now there won't be any tax cuts, but the truth of it is, under 14 years of Conservatives, for a variety of reasons, the tax burden has risen.
That's right.
To the highest since the Attlee government way back in
80 years,
1951, whatever it is.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's kick off with Monday's Mail, Kerry, which has a story that doesn't apply to anyone in this room.
Liberal attitudes could mean Brits are sleeping with more people than ever, as a fifth of women have at least 2 lovers a year. Now, that fifth of women is the part of women that has sex with men. What's going on is women are
I
getting...
like to consider them as entire human beings, Kerry.
Not in this
Not
context.
in this... Oh,
I think you're fine. We're talking about... Obviously, you don't know anything about biology. Anyway, what's going on is young people are getting more promiscuous, apparently, and particularly women are getting more promiscuous now that I'm too old to benefit, which is typical of them. And this is down to liberal... It's always been liberal attitudes, though, hasn't it? The sexual revolution also did that in the...
Like right-wing people don't want sex.
Surely you could exploit...
So, just liberals. Liberals are so liberal they haven't...
I mean, surely you could exploit this kind of father figure role like you did with your ex.
Yeah. Oh, that was cutting and unnecessary.
He's, as you know,
and more so
personally.
that I'm not going to get into it on television, live. Getting back to the story, the typical number over a lifetime is 5 for men and 3 for women. What? You're kidding me? That's tiny. That's
Surely, Paul, what the story is really about isn't about the fact that women now sleep with more men, it's that women aren't lying about it.
Yeah, because they reached the average here is that previously the statistic was the average that Britons had 4 sexual partners over a lifetime on the basis that typically men would have 5 and women would have 3, which of course you'd think there'd be some equality across the sexes in terms of sex.
We're not factoring in trans women.
Well, yes, but this was based before trans women.
Okay.
In the before time, but BT. And
that's over a lifetime. That's nothing, surely.
No, you're right, Kerry. No, you're not. No, even. Look,
I've only slept with one person.
There are 3 of the oldest incels in the UK. Agree with you.
Look, not these days, not for years. But
no, so I think you're right. I mean, it is confusing.
I worked on holiday camps.
I think, yeah, you did work on holiday camps, so you had the run of the field.
Different world.
I think these stories are interesting. They are in contrary to the stories that we often read on this programme, Josh, and that's that people are having less sex. So
I think they're having less babies, but maybe perhaps more.
So they're doing...
But the sex gap is closing.
Yes.
Who's had what gap?
I'm not going to walk into that one. Telegraph next for my sweet, kind Paul.
We're of similar age, Josh. Calling older people sweet or kind is a damaging stereotype, says campaigners. A campaign by the Centre for Ageing Better has urged the public to challenge their friends. That's what we need, more people challenging their friends who use belittling terms because they are patronising. And these terms include phrases such as, I'm too old for this, having a senior moment, and you look good for your age, Kerry. Question one would be, with the world burning down the way it is, who's funding this? Can we not funnel that funds elsewhere? And 2, why are we obsessed with finding the latest victim? In all of this article, right, it doesn't really say that the campaign for ageing better is run by older people. You just know this is going to be some...
Yeah, well, this is a very good point. And I mean, Kerry, is this the new Black Lives Matter? And are they going to have a problem, like, getting off from kneeling?
I know this. I know that £50 million has gone into funding this charity. So that's money well spent, isn't it?
Yeah, well done.
They're right on some things. Terms like wrinkly they've got here, and come on, grandad. That's offensive. But you're mixing it in with things like saying sweet old lady or using the word dear.
That's how you say sweet old lady, like, oh, sweet old lady.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Esther Ranson has moved in, has jumped in on the whole thing, saying that it's all ridiculous, and it's great to know Esther Ranson's still alive, so I didn't know that. But basically, we're getting rid of all ageist terms and ageist joking, and most birthday cards are going to become obsolete very soon.
Dear. Right, over the Daily Star and Kerry. Tempted to take a trip to the British Museum.
Yeah, this is inside Twisted Brit Cannibals. Now, British people used to eat Egyptian mummies. This story is way out of date, by the way. I thought we were doing today's news, but we're... British cannibals who used mummified remains to increase their sex drive with the mumia, which is powdered human remains. I thought mumia was something from an ABBA song, personally, but obviously not. And this goes back to Victorian Britain, where people understood it was mumia, and therefore they thought it was the same as a mummy, so they would then go to Egypt and just like, scoop out.
And actually, they wouldn't take the jewels, would they? So these are worth more than the jewels.
This is worth more than the jewels because it was about their jewels.
Yeah, getting them.
And they would start, according to the story, fake mummies were made because of the high demand.
There it goes. Yeah. And this is where the word mummy comes from mumia. Very, very quickly, Moon News next in the Mirror Pool. Someone's eating all the cheese.
Can you stop doing that? Moon, funny little quips there, just I'm about to be serious. Moon is shrinking and poses danger to future human colonies, warns study. Well, when they say future human colonies, they mean in literally 70 trillion years' time. So please, at home, don't worry. Feel like this is at the end of, like, the sort of thing they say at the end of Crime Watch now. But the moon has shrunk by over 150 feet in circumference in the last few hundred million years.
Oh my God. Thank you for your insight there. The show's nearly over.
Scary.
Let's have another quick look at Monday's front pages. We have, first of all, the Daily Mail. Can our police sink any lower? Telegraph, Badenoch accuses post office boss of lying in Horizon row. Guardian, Putin accused of covering tracks over Navalny death. Mirror, now make them pay. The Times, schools will get better or greater powers to ban mobiles. And the Daily Star, undead as a dodo. And those are your front pages. That is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Kerry Marks and Paul Cox. Simon Evans is going to be here tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Nick Dixon and myself. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, please stay tuned for the breakfast. And I hope you had a very, very nice weekend. Good night.
Hello, I'm Marco Patagna. Here's your latest weather update from the Met Office. We'll hold on to rather mixed conditions weather-wise across the UK during the week ahead, all of us seeing some rain at times and turning colder from the north later on. We've got a small ridge of high pressure moving in from the west tonight, quietening the weather down, but notice weather fronts gathering out towards the northwest and they'll bring further unsettled weather during the next few days. So as we go into the evening and during the overnight period, much of the UK is set fine. We'll see some clear spells, allowing a few mist and fog patches to form, particularly across Wales and the south-west of England. But outbreaks of rain work their way in from the north-west across Scotland and Northern Ireland, reaching Wales, the north of England by the morning, with blustery showers towards the north-west later. A mild night, so no frost problems tonight. And as we go into Monday, that band of rain continues its journey southeastwards, becoming light and patchy as it reaches the southeast during the course of the morning, and then fizzling out to give much brighter weather across the UK heading into the afternoon. Some showers, though, towards the northwest, quite blustery here, with further rain moving in across the west of Scotland later in the day. It's a pretty mild day once again, temperatures generally in double figures, peaking at 10 in the north and near 13 or 14 degrees down towards the southeast. As for Tuesday, well, a band of wet and windy weather will move its way southeastwards across many northern parts of the UK. Towards the south and east, it stays mostly fine with a few bright spells at times and staying quite mild once again for the time of year, with temperatures into the low teens Celsius in a few spots. But it stays pretty unsettled as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. Further wet weather around and turning colder from the north later on too.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
You have a president in President Biden who's not enforcing the law that was passed by Congress. President Obama, criticize him or not, actually enforced the law and was deporting people that had crossed illegally. Of course, President Trump enforced the law and improved the law to make sure that and worked with Mexico to have the Remain in Mexico policy. Biden has abandoned federal policy. In fact, he's deliberately trying to let in as many immigrants as possible. More for the Democrats, more is better and less is racist.
Just astonishing. And the statement that Greg Abbott put out is really feisty stuff. He said the federal government has broken the contract between the United States and the state of Texas. And in the eye numbers, Greg, are simply eye-watering. 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border in just 3 years, Governor Abbott says. That's more than the population of 33 states in the United States. Astonishing numbers.
And Martin, that's just Texas. If you add Arizona and other border states, you know, it's pushing 10 million. By the end of Biden's term, it'll be 11 million. A study by Yale University a few weeks ago, 3 very liberal professors that did the study estimate there's 22 million illegal aliens. So this is a crisis that was created by Biden. It's what he wants. They want unfettered access to the border. They're letting them in. It's a real hardship on the working people of Texas and other border states. And now it's a real hardship on cities that the federal government, as well as the governors of Texas and other states, are sending some of the migrants to those so-called sanctuary cities.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Our top stories tonight. Avon and Somerset police have referred themselves to the independent police watchdog after arresting a 42-year-old woman on suspicion of murder following the deaths of 3 children in Bristol. Officers attended a concern for welfare call in Blaze Walk in Sea Mills this afternoon. They say the suspect is currently in police custody at a hospital. The force said it was contacting the IOPC due to prior police contact. Sir Keir Starmer has called for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza during a speech at the Scottish Labour conference. It's a change to his previous stance of a pause in the fighting, saying instead the war must stop now. But he says the ceasefire can't be one-sided. He's calling on Hamas to release all of its remaining hostages. He also said a two-state solution must be back on the table.
An end to the fighting, not just now, not just for a pause, but permanently. A ceasefire that lasts, conference, that is what must happen now. The fighting must stop now.
Russian authorities have been accused of doing everything they can to avoid handing over Alexei Navalny's body to his family. Yesterday, the 69-year-old mother of President Putin's most vocal critic visited the remote penal colony where he died. She says she was told his body had been taken to a nearby morgue, but when she arrived, it was closed. Meanwhile, in London, tributes are continuing today outside the Russian embassy as people lay flowers and messages. Navalny's spokespeople claim his death was orchestrated murder by Putin, but that's been rejected by the Kremlin. 2 people have been charged by police and will appear in court after a pro-Palestine